So if you could tell me like a little bit about the history of the program and how it came to be.
I hope I can help you. I feel like I'm out, I'm going to bring myself back to that space.
Sure.
Why did we create the program?
Yeah, specifically the experiential educators subsector.
Right, I wasn't there when they created the day school. Well, we were looking to be bigger than a program that was training and preparing day school teachers. We inaugurated this name, the Pardais Center for Jewish Educators, and that meant a few things. I mean, it meant Israel and North America, current students and alumni, and also the dream of different educators. I guess the mantra of PEP, of the Day School Educators Program, always was that pluralistic settings, community day schools, would need teachers who were both very steeped in their knowledge and very comfortable in those settings. And I would say that I always said that our programs were experiential. Like being at Pardais is experiential. Mm-hmm. And that I'm going back to the day school educators because they're the core, of what led us to the next direction. You could teach someone a course about being in a pluralistic setting, but being in cohorts that were, as diverse as they were, and having the kinds of conversations about Israel that were as intense as they were, really proved itself when we sent people out to day schools as not only schooled in Jewish texts and not only in the theories of education, but in doing good education. And if you had asked me at any point, I believe the day school educators are experiential educators. Mm-hmm. I believe that good Jewish education is experiential education. And I think all of the lines have been, for me, always artificial. I taught the session a million times, what's the difference between formal and informal education, when we called it informal. And I came from mostly the world of camp, which, was the height of informal. But I always believe that teachers and day schools, especially the day schools, are communities, and that we were training excellent experiential educators.
Mm-hmm. Why do you believe, can you tell me about that belief a little bit?
Well, I think that, even to the core of your question, your research question, I think Jewish education must be lived and modeled. And, I grew up at Ramah, from a child, but from age 18 being told you're a Jewish educator. Mm-hmm. Before I was a professional anything, before I had a college degree, I was told you're a Jewish educator. And what did that mean? That I was deliberate in my words and in my choice of actions. And that when I walked with a chanich along the street and picked up garbage, that I was a Jewish educator. And when I chose to use certain language, that I was a Jewish educator. And I had that drummed into me. I happened to have a good Jewish education. I went to day school and so on, but we were told no matter what role we played at camp that we were Jewish educators because we were role models and because we were passionate and because we loved it and because we loved Shabbat. And then, working in Ramah in Israel because we were passionate about Israel. So to me, that's at the root of my, mm-hmm. my very earliest training, before I even called it training, and of my professionalism as an educator, is that the building of the community, the experiencing Judaism together, the being deliberate models, is Jewish education, formal, informal, experiential, academic, whatever you would call it. So, for me, it was like a switch moving into training of teachers. and the question was like, do I know anything about the training of teachers? And I learned a lot about the training of teachers, but maybe it was chutzpah or whatever. I just believed that I knew everything I needed to know because everything would transfer. Mm-hmm. My work at camp and my work with Israel programs, my work with teens, my work with staff, the way I believed in building groups and so on. I just believed, I always believed that that was the essence of Jewish education. So in some sense, for me, adding the experiential educators program gave us a little more freedom. Like, we wanted to create a center, and we wanted to be bigger, and we wanted to include different kinds of education. It felt very rigid, finding people who were in love with Jewish education and narrowing them to the classroom. Mm-hmm. And that was the requirement, in the Avichai and the commitment. And I think we lost certain people because of that. I think we gained some amazing classroom educators because of that, because all those camp people and Hillel people and people that loved Judaism came to PEP. There was nothing else.
Right.
They came to that, and they brought that. They brought all of that, and I think those are our finest teachers, is the people who came from those routes, mm-hmm. and brought that into Jewish education. So for me, we were expanding the possibilities of educators that came from different settings to teach formally, that didn't want to, that for whatever reason, and there's a lot of people, I'm sure you've met them, that think schools are very limiting, that didn't want the limitations of school. So it felt like, we could broaden our population. Mm-hmm. We could also, and where they came from and where they were going to. Also, like, purely on the recruitment level, we although we made exceptions over the years, we needed a certain level of people to come in to be teachers. If we were going to promise that in 2 years they were going to be teachers, they had to come in with a certain proficiency, mm-hmm. of text and language. And for better or for worse about the field, we, suddenly had students in the Aleph level in the educators program, which was new for us. And we began, even in Pardes, and you'll appreciate this, we began to interact with different teachers at Pardes who the educators program never interacted with, Tova Leah, or because we didn't work on the Aleph level. Mm-hmm. We didn't, and we could work people that they didn't have all the requirements of the masters and the strictness. So it I don't know that we knew all this at the beginning. I'm kind of like collapsing.
Yeah, of course.
What we saw also was that it gave us some more freedom of, both who we took and how we could be with them and how we could have them appreciate their time in Israel and where they were going.
And so when you designed the program, like, what were its primary goals?
Jewish literacy for passionate, experiential educators. And that was another difference. We decided at least, as an ideal, not to take students right out of college, mm-hmm. only to take students with professional experience, which never was the case with the day school educators. Many students over the years came straight from their BA to graduate school, which is true in general in schools of education and schools of teaching. So we made a decision that we wanted people, if they were going to be new to Judaism and new to Israel and new to the Jewish identity and text and all of that, we wanted them to have a grounding as professionals. Mm-hmm. We knew we couldn't teach them all of that. Not that in 2 years we could for the day school educators, but, we kind of promised with the day school educators, we'll take you as a college graduate and turn you into a professional. And a lot of the things that we do for them are really about driving that point home, what it is to be a professional. And less so, that was our intention. We were going to, in 1 year, not say that we could do it all. Mm-hmm. Like, also create professionals, teach you everything about being a professional. And in fact, at the beginning, we were going to have a very loose program.